we continue to our next panel discussion for day one of the summit. So, this panel discussion is a DPG spotlight, and it is scaling open source solutions for public service delivery in LAC. And just to let you know who is on the panel, so moderating the panel this afternoon, we have Miss Lauren Khan. She is the Senior Director of Global Impact Public Digital. We also have one of our panelists, who is the co-founder and chief impact officer of Open CRVS, and that is Miss Anina Verson. And then we also have on the panel with us Mr. Edward Cable, and he's the president and CEO of the MyFus initiative. And of course, we have the chief dissemination officer of MOSIP and OpenG2P, that is Mr. Nagarajan Santhanam. So that is our panel for the topic now. DPG Spotlight, Scaling Open Source Solutions for Public Service Development in LAC. Panel.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Lauren. Yeah, I'm kidding. Unfortunately, Lauren broke her foot and couldn't come. So I have the amazing task of moderating this panel. And I also wanted to invite Isabel. She's the partner and CEO of Impulso Golf. We have a huge panel and not much time. So I'm going to dive right in. So the first thing that I wanted to ask is for the panel to introduce themselves, talk a little bit very quickly about the DPG you're representing and your motivation to open sourcing it. And we can start from Naga.
Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Nagarajan. You can call me Naga for simplicity. I'm the Chief Dissemination Officer for MOSIP and OpenG2P. For all practical purposes, I'll keep it to MOSIP today. MOSIP stands for Modular Open Source Identity Platform. It explains by itself, right? I mean, whatever we spoke about today morning, right? I mean, by 2018, almost 60 plus countries try to implement foundational ID systems, including every sub-Saharan African country, and predominant of them failed. Right. So having this goal in mind, and also the United Nations Sustainable Goal 16.9, we conceived MOSIP in 2018 with some of the very key guiding principles. The first one is inclusion. Of course, we spoke a lot about it. Inclusion is the key. Second is the non-vendor lock-in. Why do we really need to have open source, right? I mean, I don't need to put it right. What it enables underlyingly is non-vendor lock-in, which is an extremely important component. I'm not sure whether we get a chance to talk about it. Third is interoperability, right? And fourth is privacy by design and security by intent. So with this foundational principles and taking the inspiration from Aadhaar, which had issued 1.4 billion IDs, we conceived MOSIP, and 26 countries are using MOSIP as we speak. Thank you so much.
Yeah, my name's Ed Cable. I'm the president and CEO of the MIFOS initiative. We maintain a couple digital public goods to help with the delivery of financial inclusion to last mile institutions, primarily centered around providing a functional bank account or wallet account to provide these services to. And so we've been open source from day one, but we actually had our roots in microfinance and more the private sector. But we created our project as open source from the recognition that to deliver financial services or financial inclusion, the functionality is relatively common. So we wanted to commoditize that infrastructure and then also work from this notion of getting further together. So we really believed from day one about building around open source to create that ecosystem, such that an ecosystem of public sector, private sector, academia, volunteers, etc., could all come and build solutions on top of the open source. And so right now our software is adopted by more than 500 institutions worldwide, primarily across the private sector, reaching more than 60 million countries. But now we're having governments start to directly adopt our core banking and payment orchestration. So thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. That is on? Yeah. Wonderful. I've just got a loud booming voice anyway, so I never know whether the microphone's on or not. My name is Anina Worson. I am co-founder and Chief Impact Officer at OpenCRBS. That's the digital public good for civil registration and vital statistics. So that's the registration of vital events, births, deaths, marriages, divorce, adoption, and the use of that data for vital statistics purposes. Our journey began within a big NGO, Plan International, where we were running little digital birth registration projects looking at how we can improve access to civil registration services through the use of technology. And what we found in every country actually is that a lot of the problems are the same. Bureaucratic, paper-based processes, access to services being really challenging, and really challenging relationships with vendors where countries were not getting what they needed, especially in low resource settings. So they were getting systems that weren't designed for low connectivity. They weren't designed for low digital literacy. And so we decided to create something just as an innovation project in Plan International. And 3 years ago, we started the OpenCRBS organization. So that's a not-for-profit, it's the home of OpenCRBS, digital public good for civil registration. And yeah, motivations really, as I mentioned, seeing the experiences of countries and trying to respond and provide a better alternative. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Is it on?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Isabel. I'm co-founder of Impulso Gov. We are a tech nonprofit in Brazil, and we work with local governments to improve primary care health service. So we have partnership with 200 municipalities in Brazil, and what we do is to help the health teams to organize their data, to know specifically who are the hypertension people who need an appointment, who are the pregnant women who need a prenatal visit, and so on. And the reason why we are open source, the real reason is because at the beginning, the developers wanted. I don't have a tech background. And I remember we were applying to a grant and it had a question about being open source. And we had to ask them and they said, yes, we are. Okay, good to let me know. But the reason why we continue to be, it's because, as I said, we are a nonprofit. We believe that sharing our knowledge is part of our mission. And we realized it was much easier to start conversation with government by being open source. So now we are starting a partnership with the Minister of Health in Brazil. And I'm sure the reason why they want to have a partnership with us is because we are open source.
Hello, everyone. My name is Victor Romero. I am CTO of Fintecheando. We are a system integration company. We integrate MIFOS. We have deployed this technology for the federal government in Mexico for 2 development banks. And one of them has won an award recently for the UNDP awards. And we have promoted the use of open source not only at I can say at end user level, but we are promoting the use of the open source in the academia because we think that we require to have the human resources and to share the knowledge that we have learned from this international organization in our local communities and in our local universities. So then this is very important for us to use the open source in the banking because we are specialized in banking technology.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Isabel, for mentioning the grants because it's a great reminder that funders really have the leverage to incentivize more open source solutions. So I wanted to talk, my first question to all of you, I wanted to talk about impacts, right? When you're talking, I know that for governments, this is the main question. Who has implemented and how was it? So if you can really briefly talk about numbers for the implementation of each one of the DPGs, but go deeper into one use case. How was it? How was the impact? How was working with the government? How was the support that you gave? It would be great for everyone that is here representing the government to learn a little bit more in practice how it is to work with you.
Right. Hello. Hello. Yeah. Like I said, MOSIP is associated with 26 countries as we speak, out of which 17 is from Africa, 4 from Asia Pacific, and 5 from Latin America and Caribbean. Right? Out of the 17 African countries, 13 of the countries are doing national rollout. Right? Just to give an interesting story, Morocco was the first country to sign a memorandum of understanding with us, even before a single line of code was written. I don't know how they really trusted us, but they really trusted us, because we come from a university, which I forgot to tell. MOSIP is seeded under a very famous Information Technology Institute in Bangalore, which is 26-year-old, top-notch, which teaches only information technology, called IIITB, International Institute of Information Technology, Bangalore. So they signed with MOSIP, and after very late, we really delivered the code to them and we progressed. Philippines was a second country. But I would like to take Philippines first, because Philippines finished their implementation much well in advance than Morocco. As we speak, around 135 million IDs has been generated using MOSIP system. See, Philippines is a 110 million population country, right? It is an extremely distributed country with 7,600 islands. You can imagine, right? 7,600 islands, and fortunately or unfortunately, the project went live when COVID was in peak. So that really drive the innovation. They really wanted to go ahead and enroll all the people into it. And coming back again to the inclusivity part of it, if they have only registered the people in the cities, right, they wouldn't have even registered 10-15 million people in the cities. So what we did is, in MOSIP we have something called as an offline registration module. See, that's what we always say, right? If you want to stay healthy, brush your teeth every day, take bath, eat healthy, right? So we don't know when it's going to come and hit. We thought all about this in MOSIP, and we never knew this use case is going to come. But when the COVID really hit, predominant of the registrations were offline registrations. It'll be very interesting. I'll share some pictures also around the lane. They even started registering from boats and stuff, right? And they went door by door, and they started enrolling and stuff. So they registered 53 million in 1 year during peak pandemic. I mean, hats off to them. We never take credit for any of these things, because we always believe that MOSIP will give the platform, we will provide the necessary advice, we will do the capacity building training, we will do the level 3 support to you. The countries really own and adopt it, which is the major thing in an open source, DPG kind of a scenario. Right? For example, the ID system of Philippines is called PhilSys. Nowhere in the PhilSys they have mentioned MOSIP, and we don't want them to mention MOSIP as well. Means to say that they have taken pride and they own the digital infrastructure by themselves, right? So enrollment story was a great story. Of course, if a platform need to be sustainable, it has to be having two aspects. One is capacity building, the other is private partnership, right? That is one of the very guiding principles we did from day one. MOSIP never does national rollouts. MOSIP will enable, in Africa we always say seeing is believing, right? So we conduct rapid pilots with the countries which can be wrapped up anywhere between 30 to 90 days time, which is free. Again, we will do it along with your teams. After the pilot is over, the country needs to either onboard their own people and do the national rollout, or they have a luxury to go and hire system integrators who are trained by MOSIP and who are MOSIP compliant. They undergo a very exhaustive training. So we ensured that we had a very good ecosystem built in, so that Philippines can quickly onboard one of the system integrators into it, and we supported hand-holding them. There was yet another interesting thing. See, we always say that we are technology providers, we are experts in ID, but we don't know everything. Your people know everything, and this is like a suit, right? I mean, every country, the size is different. So we can't say that we know everything and, we are going to just throw one software, which you want to use. No way. During the enrollment strategy was good, but the print strategy was very bad in Philippines. Out of 53 million, they could only print 10 million cards, and it was only slowing down. Then Philippines came and asked, hey guys, can you help us? Then we developed a module, the India model, whereby you can print things in a paper. As we speak, 50 million IDs are printed in paper. So you definitely don't need an ID card, especially, because the ID by itself is important. That's all. So these are some of the key aspects, we really learned from Philippines. One thing I wanted to highlight here is predominant of the MOSIP roadmap is driven by the countries. Every year, we call all our adopting countries and prospective countries, we project our roadmap and we say, guys, this is what you're planning to do. Do you want to add, modify, delete to it? Or if you have a requirement, for example, in Ethiopia, they wanted an Android registration client, right? So we built the Android registration client and we put it as part of the core platform. I think that is the success of MOSIP. We never think that, we know everything. We learn from the ground, we learn from the countries, and we are learning every day. Thank you.
Yeah, so with MIFOS, we provide digital public goods centered around payments. And so while we're not a foundational DPG like MOSIP for ID or Mojaloop for payments or OpenCRVS for civil records, we provide DPGs that help with actually enabling the delivery of financial services to that last mile. So a core banking system to manage a wallet account or to manage a loan account or payment orchestration software to make it easy for institutions to connect into a payment system, because these payments can't go last mile if the institutions providing these services don't have a modern account that can connect into the DPI. So I'll let Victor talk more about a deployment in Mexico, where it was an interesting use case where the government actually was providing loans to its citizens, and they also were trying to provide transactional accounts to the citizens as well. But they're able to take our open source, build their own unique system around it, and they're able to have a sovereign solution that they can maintain. And then they have local in-country support through Victor, but he'll talk about that when it gets to him. So thanks.
Just as continue for the conversation. For the federal government, our main challenge was to first to have a law, a regulation framework in order to access the information about the core banking users, also to access their data, because we need to understand which person will be the beneficiary of the loans. It is important to identify the most, I can say, the most poorest person in Mexico in order to help them. We have two models. One is to provide, I can say, social mobility that is provided through the loans. It is important to identify which are the best population in order to identify the loans that we're going to do the disbursement. And in the other hand, is to elevate the poverty using the savings or current accounts in order to do the social programs disbursement. They are bulk disbursement. We are talking about millions. For the bank or savings account, we have around 20 millions of current accounts. And for the loans, we have 10 millions of loans accounts. And this is at national wide level. And it is important also to mention that we have to change the mindset of the federal institutions, because it is not only to act as a commercial bank, it has a social goal also, because we are promoting the social mobility through the banking. And also another important is to prevent I can say the frauds using the identity of the person, cloning the identity. That is another important point, because most of the time the loans are provided using electronic channels like wallets, like mobile banking or online banking, and the application also are in this way. So then the risk, we have to reduce the risk of any kind of fraud that can be executed by, I can say, a person that doesn't have good intentions. So then it has been a challenge, because also the first deployment was done during the pandemic. The government was used to be in all the time in the office. We can say it on premise, but during the pandemic also it changed the way that we used to work. So then we can do home office. And also in the government, it was implemented to do home office in order to allow the developers around the world to work on the project. And this has changed also the speed of the delivery of the digital products, because with the community around the world, we can provide solutions faster than any other. Thank you.
Yes. So OpenCRBS is implemented or getting implemented in 7 countries at the moment. Oh, thank you. So it was my booming voice. So we are working with Somalia, Madagascar, Burkina Faso, the Philippines, Uganda, and Niue at the moment in the Pacific. And I'm going to start with a little impact story of our first national level rollout, which was the Pacific island nation of Niue. Population 2,000. And so when people say, where is OpenCRBS implemented? And we say this and people laugh. But it's now also being implemented in the Philippines, where we will be integrating with MOSIP. So again, that unique identification number from birth to death, super powerful, obviously, through that integration. And we work really closely together as digital public goods as well, building out these use cases, testing them, and then supporting countries to implement them. But in mighty Niue did something really smart. Small island nation, not a big budget. It was a donor-funded project, and we'd actually done a proof of concept. So about 4 years ago, before we even existed as an independent organization, we did a proof of concept with Niue, still when the technology was quite nascent. But within 8 weeks, we had a functioning version of the system, and Niue used that to get buy-in from cabinet. And it took about 2 years to get sign-off, but then they decided to implement it. So in 2023, in just 4 months, Niue implemented birth and death registration, digital birth and death registration services using OpenCRBS on their in their data center on Niue. So it just shows, following great examples from Trinidad and Tobago, using digital public goods, you can implement systems really, really quickly. And what I wanted to focus on really quickly is Niue started small. They took the functionality out of the box. It did not cover everything they needed. They still needed marriage, divorce, adoption, name change. They wanted a few bells and whistles, but they recognized we're small, we don't need a lot, let's start with this. And what they've realized is that 99% of the functionality is fulfilled with that. And now this year, we're going to upgrade them with marriage, divorce, adoption, name change, all these things that we as a core digital public good have built, funded through donors, through other country programs, and they're going to benefit from it. And now through that, we're also implementing in the Cook Islands this year, in Tuvalu. So we can see small island nations implementing OpenCRBS. And what we're exploring also there is integration with New Zealand passports and New Zealand civil registration, because they have these cross-border use cases as well. So it's going to be super interesting to see how things progress in this region and also in the Pacific. And I think there's a lot we could share and learn from our experience, certainly, in implementing in small island nations, and perhaps the similarities and differences, obviously, with Caribbean nations as well. The other thing to mention there as well, lots of talk about collaboration, wonderful opportunity to explore things like shared services. How can you reduce the total cost of ownership by implementing similar systems such as OpenCRBS or any digital public good or open source solution, and have capacity within the region to manage and maintain that, to do upgrades, etc. So loads of opportunities using a digital public good, taking that functionality out of the box and implementing in just a few months a foundational identity management system.
So about our impact, our mission, the problem that we want to solve in Brazil is to make sure that every person that uses the public health system has access to the service they need. And this is not happening today, besides the fact that we have a functional system, we have a lot of people working on it, but we don't have the information who are the people who need, for example, a woman who needs a pap smear. So we have this data, but the professionals who are in the front are not using. And what we do is we have a software that connects to the database at the city level. We work, as I said, with 200 cities in Brazil. I'm talking about small cities, mostly in the northeast of the country, which is the poorest part of the country. And we organize their data for them to know specifically who they have to go after and to schedule an appointment for example, a pap smear. This is a good example in terms of impact because it's still a huge problem. There are 7,000 women who dies every year for cervical cancer, and this is a completely avoidable death. And the case used specifically is helping nurses and community health workers who are in the primary care facilities to go after those people. We've been also last year testing sending direct messages by WhatsApp to the citizens for them to schedule the appointment, so they know they need to do it, and they go to the facilities to schedule. And by doing that, we believe we are removing barriers to access to health service.
Thank you so much, all of you. My next question is another very important question for government, which is support for implementation and maintenance. This question has three phases. The first part of the question is for Naga and Ed. I'm very happy that you said on the exact order that you did. But both MOSIP and MIFOS, you have a really big strategy on supporting and training implementers everywhere. Can you share a little bit more about your approach and about the network that you are building in the Caribbean and in Latin America?
Yeah. See, capacity building is one of the core aspects of MOSIP. Because, like I said, we come from a university. How can we not give it back? Right? And the only way to ensure sustainability is capacity building. Right? We ensure capacity building in three categories. First is obviously a very easy one: the system integrator ecosystem or the biometric vendor ecosystem. We run special programs for them. They need to clear the program, and then we award a compliance certificate. We have around 100 plus biometric device ABIS and system integrator partners in our ecosystem. Right? It's a very stringent process which you undergo. And even more, I was even talking to some gentlemen today, and I was telling, if a country enforces that I have a bunch of SIs, system integrators, who needs to be trained in MOSIP, so that if I adopt MOSIP, I can award the implementation to them. We are more than happy to take it and do it to them. Because without a proper system integrator ecosystem, your platform cannot sustain. We spoke about open source, and I told that you can avoid vendor lock-in, right? Do you think just by writing a platform in open source you can avoid complete vendor lock-in? No. What if I say MOSIP is open source, but for you to implement MOSIP, you need to only have this biometric device from this one vendor? What if I say for you to implement MOSIP, you need to use only the system integrator? So this is yet another way of avoiding vendor lock-in, right? So we ensure that we provide proper trainings to the system integrator ecosystem, 100 plus, you can imagine, and it's only growing more. Second is, we feel that the country should own their critical national infrastructure by themselves. Many other countries, when I say this, they say, hey, Naga, you know what? We don't have proper technical people. I don't think we'll be able to do it. I'm not asking you to take it from day one, but you have to reach there, right? You have to go to first grade for you to graduate, right? So what we do is, as part of our national rollout implementation, we come up with a very pragmatic, comprehensive capacity building plan. It is not that one model suits all. We sit with the country, we ask you how many people are there, how many people are operators, how many people are supervisors, how many people are super users, are there development people where we can train them in a very different way. On a regular basis, we keep the training plan, which we work with them. And the training happens either we come here and train, or the people can come to India and get trained, and it can be a hybrid of Zoom, we coming here, they coming there. It's all extremely pragmatic. We don't dictate anything. So one demonstration of this is in Zambia. We trained 13 people in MOSIP and OpenGTP for 3 weeks' time. We were pretty surprised to hear from some other agency that they have gone ahead and implemented 2 OpenGTP programs by themselves without even telling us. See, that is the real success of a DPG, right? I mean, it's not that we should be holding everything to our chest. If the ecosystem, if the country, people are really taking it and doing it by themselves without our help, wow. We are really motivated by seeing this. Countries are really adopting that. I would say Mexico as well. Mexico and Peru as well. Fantastic. When we are doing pilots, I mean, we were really shocked at the end of the pilot when our engineers went there for the go live of the pilot. Man, they knew 90% of it. So we always say start somewhere so that you will reach somewhere. This is the second level. Third is the university collaboration. How do you really sustain it? See, we may be chief dissemination officer and technology officers. We can never go and compete with a fresher or a youngster who comes out of the university. Their sharpness, their awareness level in technology is in a very, very different way. So if we enable them to a larger degree, then the DPG gets a really benefit out of it. We did it in Philippines. In fact, we did it with the University of Philippines. And the head of the department, Mr. Mapa, NS Mapa, comes from that university. So he has promised that he will take few students into his job, if they are upscaled in MOSIP. So this is the way, we ensure that the capacity building is built to a larger degree so that the sustainability is ensured in MOSIP.
Yeah, Naga made a lot of great points, so I'll try not to repeat those, but emphasize different aspects of them. And so for us, this notion of getting further together, we've always believed that we can't do it alone, and we need that local ecosystem of partners, system integrators, innovation companies, or academia to help, first off, with the advocacy and building demand and helping to just generate new opportunities, whether it's within the private or public sector, to actually deploy the digital public goods and build the DPI solutions. And then secondly, these local ecosystem providers, we try to create a virtuous cycle where the innovations that they're building for their specific customers, those all can get contributed back upstream. So we very much try to emphasize that a government not fork the solution, but be on that latest upstream code base, and then endeavor to contribute back what you're building so others can benefit, and you also benefit from what others are building onto the solution as well. And then also want to emphasize just the importance of working with universities. So we've participated in programs like Code for GovTech and Google Summer of Code. So I think we worked with 17 interns last year, and this is a great way to build that next generation of contributors and local talent that can help to contribute to the sustainability of not just the digital public good, but for the government solution itself. And then another point we'd like to emphasize is just how much local impact these local companies have in terms of being able to retain the talent within the region. I know, that was a concern raised with individuals leaving Jamaica and coming back, but by having these business models that these local companies can sustain by building local sovereign solutions, that's really quite effective. And then in regards to the Caribbean specifically, we're doing a pilot in Trinidad and Tobago around shared infrastructure. So that's where we're working with the local system integrators to deploy at scale our core banking system for the credit unions there, such that they can have a modern system in place to connect into the digital payment ecosystem, connect into the digital ID ecosystem. But with that shared infrastructure approach, it's very much working with the local system integrator to be that source of long-term support. And then the last point, it's something that Anina raised around these shared resources. We do believe that these local partners, they can have the capability to deliver skill sets or develop skill sets across multiple digital public goods. So often a DPI solution, it's not going to be on one product or one DPG. It's going to cut across multiple DPGs. So it's extremely critical for that sustainability, support, and long-term viability of the solution that you have local SIs that have the capability to support multiple DPGs.
So, and the second part of my question is for Anina and Isabel. So, OpenCRVS has a mixed implementation structure, right? You're supporting implementers to implement OpenCRVS, but you're also working directly with a couple of governments on implementing OpenCRVS yourselves. Can you share a little bit more about the two business models. If there's anything you would like to add from Ed and Naga's perspective, and then talking a little bit about your support in implementing OpenCRVS. And then for Isabel, you have 100% implementation support at Impulso.gov. I would love to hear a little bit more as well.
Yeah, thanks, Julia. We've learned so much, again, the benefit of being a DPG in this DPG world, so many acronyms. But we've learned so much from partners such as MIFOS and MOSIP, obviously over 100 partners. It's absolutely incredible. We are currently growing our system integrators ecosystem. We have an accreditation scheme. So if you go onto our website and you can take a look at what that is, we have a Google Classroom. It's self-led, and system integrators will come. They will have to go through those steps. And we have quite a high quality bar because we only want to encourage countries to work with system integrators who have the skills, not only technically, but also from a business analysis perspective. So we do actually coach and ask the organizations that we work with to think through how do you work with companies to actually re-engineer effective civil registration services that can delight, that recognize the emotional element of of births, of these beautiful moments in our lives, or deaths where it's sad. We want to encourage system integrators to also think about the design aspect of things. So our accreditation scheme is going. We have a handful of system integrators, with more basically going through that. So for countries who are advertising an RFP, or if they come to us and they say, oh, who can implement, we will point them to our accredited system integrators just to say, we know that these companies have the skills. Obviously, if there are others, we would encourage them to go through the accreditation scheme first. So that's really how we kind of advise countries in that respect. Sometimes also companies will come to us and say, can you please be a part of our team to add expertise? So we do that in a completely non-exclusive way, but obviously as a digital public good trying to self-sustain ourselves, we do want to support system integrators, but we would do that as a charge to a system integrator so that we could support them. Or countries could pay us, for instance, for a quality assurance service. So you're engaging a system integrator, you want to make sure that the implementation is really high quality. Well, we can also provide that support. But for the countries that we are supporting directly, so there's a couple of countries working with system integrators. That's Uganda and Tonga immediately. Countries such as Somalia, Madagascar, and Burkina Faso are all using their own digital capacity in country. So these are country-led projects. In Madagascar, it's the digital government unit. In Somalia, it's their own civil registration department. They have developers. And essentially, we work with them and do the implementation activities only in pre-production environments. We only touch production. Well, we generally try not to touch any production data. And we coach them as we go. So we will work with in-country teams to build their capacity on the job, because it takes time to learn a technology stack, right? So just because you're a technologist and you know some of the technologies within the OpenCRVS stack, even the best developers in the world are going to take a few months to get up to speed and be able to do the things you want them to do. So we do that in partnership with them. And we also have tried to make the system as simple as possible. So instead of customizing it and forking the code, we really encourage countries stick close to core, and then upgrades are easy, right? And then the capacity that you require in country is to configure the product. And we're trying to make the product as configurable as possible. So you can create your own users, your own scopes for those users. You can create custom workflows, etc. We are becoming more and more flexible, so that countries do not fork and actually they're just configuring the system. So hopefully that means capacity needs to be slightly less in terms of, you don't need to build new features. Obviously, core, we can do that as our role in managing and maintaining a core digital public good. But countries can still have a homegrown solution because they can own it. In Somalia, they're doing the work. In Madagascar, they're doing the work. We are supporting them. We are coaching them. And in countries where we see the gaps, we would also encourage them to work with a system integrator. But we absolutely want to build that capacity. Thank you.
So we are the direct implementers with the 200 cities that we work with. So that means we have to sign agreements with each one of the cities. It's a lot of work, but still I'm talking about small cities. It's a little bit less bureaucratic. But the reason why we are able to do that is because all the cities in Brazil have a standardized database that is required by the Ministry of Health. So we can connect and have a software and one solution and scale to different cities. We still need a team, a customer success team, to help the local governments from the beginning to implement the solution. Like logging in, creating the accounts, it's the people that use our solution, they are not very, they are not very used to using digital solutions, so it's a lot of work. But we've been able to improve our software and improve the usability. And the way we see it is scaling up. It's not reaching every city in Brazil. That would be impossible. I think we've reached a scale that is good for designing a good product, for understanding what are the needs and improving it. We want to partner with the Ministry of Health and to design together with the Ministry of Health solutions that can be scaled nationwide. I think this is the smartest ways for us in the future to scale up.
Thank you so much. And I think what you said, Isabel, is so powerful because throughout the day, we have been talking about the implementation of DPI, right? And the impact that implementing DPI has. But what Impulso Gov is doing is building innovation on top of DPI. And we all know that this is the next step. Like once we have DPI structuring the government, what can happen? And innovations like Impulso Gov can happen. So this is amazing that you shared. We have 0 time left, but I would. I'm sorry, she's looking at me. No buts. But I would love for you to just give a 30-second final remarks. And Victor, if we can start with you, and I'm going to be very specific with your final remarks because I would love to. We talked about scalability on the DPG side. I would love to understand what is your relationship with the MIFOS team on the system integrators perspective, and all of this in 30 seconds. And then we can move back to Naga with final remarks.
Yeah. First, we have start to understand which is the MIFOS technology. Then we have implemented for our local requirements. And now we are contributing back to the source code. For example, now we are creating MCP servers, which allows the AIs to interact with the core banking. So then this is the first MCP server that interacts with a core banking. You can connect it to ChatGPT, Cloud, or anything. So this kind of innovation creates a virtuous cycle of open source, and we are contributing back to the community. That's it.
Thank you. You're going to leave this event with the phone number of other 20 DPGs wanting
Yeah.
to work with you.
Yeah, thank you.
So it's our first event on the DPI ecosystem, and I'm learning a lot. I think I've never thought of Impulso in that way, that we are building on the top of a DPI, but it is true. Like we are creating information from data that already exists in the government. And I see a lot of potential, not only in Brazil. There are many health systems in the world that work in the same way as we do with community health workers. So I'm willing to exchange more and learn more about the other solutions.
Yeah, thank you. So really quickly, with digital public goods, we have documentation. Please go online and look at it. There's a wealth of information on there, whether you want to use OpenCRBS or not. If your country's looking at a civil registration system, there's lists of features and functionality. There's standards. Go and have a look at it, and you can use that to inform an RFP. The other thing I would say, if there's any countries in the room who are interested in doing a proof of concept of either open CRVS or multiple DPGs that can be installed quickly for a technical proof of concept. So that could be open CRVS with MOSIP, with MIFOS, with social protection systems. We are exploring DPI in a box solutions. So if you're a country who's interested in looking at integrated digital public goods that can be implemented super quickly, and we've got some nice donors in the room as well, then please do come have a chat with us and we'll see whether we can get a project spun up nice and quickly. And in just 4 or 5 months, you could have something working and demonstrated that could be scaled. Thanks.
Yeah, and just to add to bit what Anina said, we really believe it's fundamental for governments to realize the art of what's possible by building on open source. And to that end, we've created MIFOS Gazelle, which is a deployment tool to rapidly deploy multiple digital public goods in mere minutes, where a government could easily evaluate a DPG. You could quickly set up a sandbox environment. Other DPGs can explore how they can easily integrate together. And the next step is to bring in other digital public goods beyond MIFOS and Mojaloop, which are currently there, like OpenCRVS, like OpenSPP, like OpenGDP, like MOSIP, and have demonstrable end-to-end use cases that are deployed right out of the box and easy to evaluate. So thank you.
I would say we are in MOSIP 2.0. MOSIP 1.0, we were more focused on registration and issuance, with 130 million IDs issued. We feel that the platform is rock solid for the countries to take it and run with it. Of course, we will help them. We have gone and extended the M of MOSIP, which is modularity, right? That's when you hear about ING and eSignet modules of MOSIP. For you to enable ING and eSignet pretty quickly, you don't need to have MOSIP as your foundational ID system. So please, I would like to re-emphasize this. Again, seeing is believing. I was very impressed when my brother from TNT gave a speech about the ING implementation there. So we don't want to talk about our DPGs. When the countries talk about it, we feel so satisfied. Thank you so much for providing this opportunity. Many thanks once again.
Thank you so much. And I invite all of you to go into code.iadb.org to see all of the solutions and the 250 solutions that we have in our repository, and go into the DPG repository to see the almost 200 solutions that are certified at DPGs. And be a part of 55, be a part of Code for Development, be a part of the Digital Public Good Alliance. We're here to help. And thank you so much. And we're being kicked out by her.
Thank you so much to our panel. Leveraging DPGs to enhance public services across the region is very important. And of course, the private entities also have a role to play in helping with bridging these gaps.